Hello children, I am Basabdatta of DM School Bhubaneswar. Today we are going to read the two chapters Topsy Turvy Land and Gulliver's Travels of Unit 7 Class 5 Marigold. And let us start with the poem Topsy Turvy Land, and it is written by H.E. Wilkinson. And do you understand the meaning of topsy turvy? Let us look at this picture. What do you see in this picture? Everything is upside down. The boy, the girl, the cat, the giraffe, all are upside down. And yes, this is the meaning of topsy turvy. Topsy turvy means upside down. Children, have you ever thrown your school bag on your bed? Have you ever thrown your shoes and socks here and there? And have you ever thrown ball in your room like this? And what will be the situation in your room? Look at the picture. And yes, this is also a topsy-turvy situation. And you people are naughty enough to do this kind of situation at your room. So let us go and read the poem once. The people walk upon their heads. The sea is made of sand. The children go to school by night in topsy-turvy land. The front door step is at the back. You are walking when you stand. You wear your hat upon your feet in topsy-turvy land. And buses on the sea will meet while pleasure boats are planned to travel up and down the streets of topsy-turvy land. You pay for what you never get. I think it must be grand. For when you go, you are coming back in topsy-turvy land. Let me explain you the meaning of the poem. The people walk upon their heads. The sea is made of sand. People walk upon their heads. In our land, people walk upon their feet, their legs. But in topsy-turvy land, people walk upon their heads. Isn't it strange? And the sea is made of sand there. In our land, sea is made of water and water. But in topsy-turvy land, sea is made of sand. The children go to school by night in topsy-turvy land. In our land, children go to school in the morning at 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 in the morning. But it's topsy-turvy land. Everything is opposite here. The children go to school by night. They go to school at night. And what do they do in the daytime? We don't know. The front door step is at the back. You are walking when you stand. And in topsy-turvy land, the front door step is at the back of the house. And you are walking when you stand. Actually, you are standing, but you are walking because it is topsy-turvy land. You wear your hat upon your feet in topsy-turvy land. In our land, we put on our hat like this. Yes, like this on our head. But in topsy-turvy land, you wear your hat upon your feet. And buses on the sea will meet while pleasure boats are planned. Buses on the sea? Yes, because everything is opposite in topsy-turvy land. And in topsy-turvy land, buses do not run on the streets. They run on the sea. While pleasure boats are planned to travel up and down the streets of topsy-turvy land. Pleasure boats. Pleasure means entertainment. So the boats for entertainment, they travel up and down the streets. Buses run on sea and pleasure boats travel in the streets of topsy-turvy land. You pay for what you never get. I think it must be grand. You pay for what you never get. Here in our land, we pay to buy something very nice. But in topsy-turvy land, they pay for getting nothing at all. They pay but they get nothing. I think it must be grand. What is the meaning of grand? Grand means actually big, but here it's funny. I think it's fun because you pay but you don't get anything. For when you go, you are coming back in topsy-turvy land. In topsy-turvy land, when you go, you are going, but you are coming back. Actually, you are going, but you are coming back. And this is possible in topsy-turvy land only, where everything is opposite. Okay? So, we have understood the poem, the meaning of the poem. Now, let me show you some funny situations like that of topsy-turvy land. And you can also imagine such things yourselves. I will show you some pictures. You see, the fishes are flying in the sky in topsy-turvy land. Fishes in our land, they swim in water, but they are flying in sky because it's topsy-turvy situation. And you see, the cot is twirling in room and the cot is not on the floor. It is twirling in the room because it's topsy-turvy situation, means ulta-pulta situation. And the fan has turned into a big octopus. Wow, it's really funny. The fan has turned into an octopus because again it's a topsy-turvy situation. And umbrella twirling round and round. You see the picture. Umbrella is twirling round and round because it's a topsy-turvy situation. So now, children, let us learn the word meanings. There are not too many difficult words there. So, what is the meaning of topsy-turvy? I have already explained. Topsy-turvy means upside down. Pleasure. Pleasure boats, feeling of enjoyment. I explained pleasure boats means the boats which are meant for enjoyment. Grand. Grand means big. But here grand means great fun. Great fun in topsy-turvy land. So children, let's move to the question answer part. When do children go to school in topsy-turvy land? Children go to school at night in topsy-turvy land. In the poem, if buses travel on the sea, then where do the boats travel? How should it rightly be? In the poem, boats travel on the streets, whereas they should travel in the sea. Next question. The land of topsy-turvy is very different from our land. Let's draw a comparison by filling in sentences wherever needed. You see, topsy-turvy land and our land. The difference is there. And now you have to fill the blanks. In topsy-turvy land, people walk on their heads. But in our land, they walk on their feet. In our land, people walk on their feet. And in our land, the buses run on land. But in topsy-turvy land, the buses run on the sea. In topsy-turvy land, they wear their hats on feet. But in our land, they wear their hats on their heads. In topsy-turvy land, boats travel in streets. In our land, boats sail in the sea. But in topsy-turvy land, boats travel in streets. In topsy-turvy land, people pay for what they don't get. But in our land, people pay for what they get. So, children, with this we come to the end of this poem. Children, now let us go to the second chapter, Gulliver's Travels of Unit 7. Gulliver's Travels is actually very famous and popular book in the world. It is not only popular among elders but also popular among children. It has been written by Jonathan Swift. Gulliver, the hero of the book, is actually a sailor who travels in ship to different parts of the world. And during his travel, he faces many adventurous experiences. And this book describes his adventures. And this book has four parts basically. The first part and the second part are very popular among children. The first part contains Gulliver's experience in the land of tiny creatures. That land is called Lilliput, in the land of tiny creatures where people and animals are very small, only up to few inches, maximum 6 inches in height. I will show you the pictures. You see how Gulliver appears like a giant to those tiny people. Here, the tiny people have tried to tie Gulliver with ropes. But we will study the second part. Achha, when a person tells the story of his life in his own words, it is called an autobiography. Means, if a person describes his life experiences through his book, through his writings, through his experiences, his achievements in his book, then the book is called its autobiography. And in this story, since Gulliver describes his experiences, we can say this as Gulliver's autobiography. Gulliver, a sailor, was once caught in the land of giants. The story is how he describes his experience. So, the second part contains Gulliver's adventure, Gulliver's experience in the land of giants, where all were giants, just opposite to the first part, where all the people, all the creatures were very tiny. Let us read the story now. On the 16th of June 1730, we discovered land. Our captain sent a dozen of men with vessels for water, if any could be found. When we came to land, we saw no river or spring nor any inhabitants. So, on the 16th June 1730 means around 300 years back. Gulliver's experience was written around 300 years back. So, let me explain you the situation. What happened? Gulliver's ship faced a storm in the sea and lost its way. And they had the drinking water in their ship, and that drinking water was going to finish. And all of them were in search of water, and they saw a land. So the captain sent Gulliver and his friends for searching water and bringing water in vessels. So when the people went to the land, they could not see any river, any lake, any spring there. Neither they could see any inhabitant there. Inhabitant means people living at a particular place. So they could not find water, they could not find people there. I went on to explore. The country was barren and rocky. I turned back to join the crew, only to see them getting into the boat and rowing for life to get to the ship. So what happened? I went on to explore. I went a little further than my friends. And the country was barren. Barren means there was no vegetation, there were no trees, and it was rocky also. So many rocks are there, everywhere rocks are there, were there. So I also could not find water, and I turned back to join my friends. But what did I see? I saw my friends are getting into the boat and they are rowing as fast as they could to get to the ship. Before I could reach them, I observed a huge creature walking after them in the sea as fast as he could. The water of the ocean reached only till his knees. So, before I could reach my friends, what did I see? I saw a huge creature. I saw a huge, very huge creature walking, chasing my friends in the sea. And they were rowing faster because they wanted to save their lives. And the creature was so big, so huge that the water of the ocean only reached only till his knees. However, the monster was unable to overtake the speeding boat. I turned back quickly and climbed up a steep hill with fields of barley on either side and the corn rising up to 40 feet. So, what happened? The monster could not catch my friends. He could not reach my friends because the boat was at its highest speed. And now, what would I do? I turned back to save my life. I turned back quickly and climbed up a steep hill. Steep, you understand? Steep means very sharp and slopey. And I climbed because I wanted to save my life. I climbed up the steep hill where fields were there on either side. Barley fields were there on either side. And the corns were so big. They were rising up to 40 feet. Just imagine. 40 feet means the height of a coconut tree. Up to that. The corns were so big. There was a fence to pass from one field to the other. It was impossible for me to climb because every step was 6 feet high. So I wanted to save my life, and there was a fence to pass from one field to the other. I tried to cross the fence, but every step of the fence was 6 feet high. 6 feet means a little higher than myself. So I tried to, it was impossible for me to climb, in fact, and to cross the fence. I was trying to find a gap in the hedge when I discovered one of the inhabitants in the next field walking towards the fence. What was I trying? I was trying to find a gap. I could not climb the fence. Now I was trying to find a gap in the hedge, among the bushes, so that I could hide myself. But what did I see? I saw one of the inhabitants, one of the people in the next field was walking towards that fence. Oh my God! He was of the same size as the creature chasing the boat. I was struck with utmost fear and astonishment and ran to hide myself. He called in a voice much louder than a trumpet. So, I think all those people in that land were the same monster size as the first person who was chasing the boat. All were giants. I was struck with utmost fear. I was trembling with fear and astonishment and ran to hide myself. He called in a voice much louder than the trumpet. You understand, trumpet? And the voice of the monster was much louder than the trumpet. Big size of their body and big voice. It sounded like thunder. 7 monsters like him came towards the field ready to reap the corn. They carried a reaping hook which was very big. So the monster's voice sounded like thunder to me, and I was very much afraid. Now 7 monsters like the first one, the giant monster who was approaching me, they came towards the field ready to reap the corn. Reap, you understand? Reap means cutting the crop. Okay. So the monsters means the farmers of that land. They were coming to the field to reap the corn. And they were carrying reaping hooks. Reaping hooks means the tool that is used to cut the crop. And the reaping hooks were really very big. When one of the reapers approached, where I lay hidden, I screamed as loud as I could. So one of the reapers, the farmers were coming towards that field, and one of the reapers was coming where I was trying to hide myself. And when he was just approaching me, I was hiding, but I could not help myself. I screamed at the top of my voice. I screamed, I shouted as loud as I could. Ah! The creature stopped reaping, picked me up between his thumb and forefinger, and brought me close to his eyes, 60 feet above the ground. What happened? The creature now, he could hear my voice. He stopped reaping and he came towards me. He held me between his thumb and the forefinger. Thumb and the forefinger like a toy and like a doll only. And he picked me up with his two fingers and brought me close to his eyes. And I was now 60 feet above the ground. You can imagine what my situation was at that time. He looked at me with curiosity and blew my hair aside to get a better view of my face. He called his friends and gently placed me on the ground. So now the monster looked at me with the farmer. He looked at me with curiosity, with the interest to know about me, with curiosity, and blew my hair aside to get a better view of my face. He called his friends. Now he called his friends. Come, come, see this tiny creature. And now he gently placed me on the ground. They all sat on the ground to take a good look at me. I walked slowly backward and forward, pulled up my hat, and made a low bow towards the farmers. So now, what happened? The farmers, they all sat on the ground to see what kind of creature I was. I walked slowly backward and forward. What should I do now? I tried to draw their attention. I tried to explain my situation. So I tried to entertain them, in fact. I walked backward and forward and pulled off my hat and made a low bow towards the farmers. So then what happened? I tried to speak to them loudly in several languages. Each time I did so, the farmer who picked me up held his ear very close to me, but in vain. So I tried to speak to them loudly in as many languages as I could. Since I was traveling all over the world, I knew so many languages. So I tried to speak in all the languages I knew. Each time I tried to speak, the farmer who picked me off, he brought his ear very close to listen. But in vain, he could not understand anything. The farmer took me to his house and placed me at some distance on the dining table, which was 30 feet high from the floor. Dinner was brought for the farmer in a dish which was 10 feet in diameter. So now it was probably evening. The farmer took Gulliver to his house and he kept Gulliver on the dining table. And the dining table was 30 feet high from the floor. 30 feet means, let us imagine, up to a 3-story building. And then dinner was brought for the farmer in a dish which was 10 feet in diameter. 10 feet, are you able to understand? 10 feet means that of a small room size. And the dish was of about 10 feet in diameter. The farmer's wife crumbled some bread and placed it before me. In the middle of the dinner, I heard a noise behind me. It was the purring of a cat that was 10 times larger than an ox. So, the farmer's wife now crumbled some bread, Crumbled means he made small pieces, crumbled some bread and placed it before me. Those small pieces were enough for my dinner. In the middle of the dinner, when I was having those bread pieces, I heard a noise behind me. It was the purring of a cat, and the sound of the cat that was 10 times larger than an ox in our land. 10 times larger. You can imagine the sound of the cat at that land was 10 times larger than an ox of our land. Okay. The farmer's wife was stroking him. Then entered the farmer's 1-year-old son in the arms of a lady. Now this was a pet cat of the farmer's wife. So farmer's wife was stroking the cat. Then entered the farmer's 1-year-old son. A lady was carrying farmer's 1-year-old son in the arms. And what happened? On seeing me, the child grabbed me from the table and put my head into his mouth. I shouted so loudly that the baby dropped me. So now the baby entered in the arms of that lady, and on seeing me, he thought probably I am a doll. So he picked me and he grabbed me, means he picked me suddenly from the dining table and put my head into his mouth. You know, babies are really very innocent, and they put everything into their mouth. And this 1-year-old son tried to put my head into his mouth. And I shouted so loudly that the baby was afraid and he dropped me. I would have broken my neck if the mother had not held her apron under me. Later, she put me on her own bed and covered me with a clean white handkerchief. And when the baby dropped me, from what height? From 30 feet height approximately, I would have broken all my bones. I would have broken my neck, broken my bones if mother of that baby would not have saved me through her apron. And later, after dinner, she means the farmer's wife, put me on her bed and covered me with a clean white handkerchief. And you can imagine that white handkerchief must be bigger than our blanket. I slept dreaming of my home, my wife, and my children. Now that I could not do anything, I went to sleep and I was away from my home, so I kept dreaming about my wife and my children, my home. So, now that the chapter we have already understood, let us move to the word meaning part. First word is inhabitants. Inhabitants of that land means occupants or means people who lived at that land. Inhabitants means occupants or the people who live at a particular place. Barren. Barren means land with no vegetation. That country was barren. That Jan's place was barren, means that at that place there was no vegetation. Astonishment. Astonishment means greatly surprised. So Gulliver was afraid and he was astonished to see the monster who was approaching him. Means he was greatly surprised to see the monster who was coming towards him. Crumbled means broken into pieces. Farmer's wife crumbled the bread, means she broke the bread into pieces. Grab. Grab means pick suddenly. The baby, the 1-year-old son of the farmer, grabbed me from the table, means he picked me suddenly from the table. Now come to the question answer part. Why did the captain send the men to the land? The captain sent the men to the land to see if any water could be found. Why did the men rush back to the ship? The men rushed back to the ship because they were chased by a giant. Now choose the correct answer. The giant carried a reaping hook because he was fighting with the other giants. He was going to reap the corn. He wanted to frighten Gulliver. Obviously, they were carrying reaping hooks because they were going to reap the corn. So the answer is B. He was going to reap the corn. They put Gulliver on the ground to look at him because they had never seen a human before. They thought he was a doll. They had never seen such a tiny man. So the answer will be, they put Gulliver on the ground because they had never seen a human before. Next, Gulliver was a farmer or a sailor or a dwarf or a giant. Obviously, he was a sailor because he was always traveling in the ship. So children, now we have finished both the chapters. Hope you enjoyed the lesson and learnt many things. Thank you.